Oh, good grief. I mean, what are you even supposed to say after a game like that? In a vacuum, right? That was a tale of two halves, okay? Luckily for me and us, the second half of that football game happened because I was ready to come to this camera and this microphone and absolutely lose my mind over what we saw in that game. That first half performance, particularly the first quarter and a half or whatever it was, we all know what was going on, right? We know what we were seeing, okay? That in a vacuum, right? Because obviously the game settled down at some point for the Colts. That stretch in the beginning of that football game has to be one of the worst performances I have ever seen from the Indianapolis Colts, period. The only other one that comes to mind that just had me almost at a loss. Like I couldn't even comprehend what I was looking at. The only game I could think of that ever made me feel like that was when we lost 62-7 to the Saints in primetime football, if you remember the Curtis Painter season. I mean, it was that bad of a performance, and I just don't know how you could possibly allow the Packers to come in and do that to you, particularly, again, early in that game, after what we saw in week one. I don't know if they were just caught sleeping, like the guys just thought they were going to go in there and it was going to be easy. I don't know what the hell we were looking at, but what did I say coming into this game for the Indianapolis Colts? I said, you had to force Malik Willis to come in there and beat you with his arm. That's what you needed to do. Everyone and their mother knew that, and your mom doesn't even watch football, right? Everyone and their mother knew that they were going to come in there and try to establish the run. I said, you can't allow Green Bay to get on the perimeter. They did. I said, you have to take away Josh Jacobs. They didn't. Everyone knew they were coming out there to run the ball. 20 of the first 22 plays were on the ground, and they did it anyway. They just got it done. I mean, 262 yards rushing in the first half. Are you kidding me? There was like over 100 yards rushing halfway through the first quarter. I mean, and then all of a sudden, you get into the second half, and now you see the Colts start to make these adjustments, and go figure, right? The Packers offense slows down as it should with Malik Willis at quarterback, who I guess if you're the Packers, you have to be satisfied with what he did. But if you're the Colts, I mean, what a joke. You've got to be kidding me. Why must it take the house falling apart for you to come out and make those adjustments? Because then all of a sudden you see the Colts start mixing in those blitz packages. You see them start doing some stunts on the defensive line. You see them have 5 guys in the defensive line, right? You start to see some of these different looks from the Indianapolis Colts, and then go figure, all of a sudden, you're able to stop Green Bay from running. My question is, what the hell took you so long to do that? I mean, if you had that drawn up and you had that there, why wouldn't you have done that to start the game? I mean, Malik Willis coming into this game presented no threat whatsoever with his arm. Now, ultimately, you can never underestimate the Colts' ability to make sure that a backup quarterback has a good completion percentage against them. But I think part of the reason he did so well is because we allowed him to settle in. I think if you came in and did what you did in the second half of that football game to start that game, we would have watched an entirely different game. And this is one of those games where the numbers are so deceiving, because at the end of the day, the Colts defense eventually put their foot down, right? And they allowed less than 20 points. I mean, you allow 16 points in theory, right? That's a good day of football. But of course, if you watch the game, you know damn well it was an embarrassing performance for the Indianapolis Colts. If I was them, I would have considered firing Gus Bradley going into halftime. I mean, it was that bad. And I don't know how much longer you could keep this guy having a job. I mean, you go the entire offseason with him there, and you know me, guys. For those of you who have been here, you know I'm the last one. Like, if anything, I'm an apologist. I'm always trying to calm down the craze of, like, fire this guy, fire that guy. You're supposed to go the rest of the season with this guy, defensive coordinator. All we could do is pray to the football gods and the Lord above that whatever they were doing in the second half, they continue to do. I'm not sure if I have ever seen a team get beat so bad one way one week and then come out the next week and get beat even worse off of the same exact formula. I mean, I just do not know how you allow that to happen. Again, numbers deceiving, particularly when you look at the score of this game. And I think really when you look at Anthony Richardson's performance as well, of course, I'm going to try to move past just bitching about this defense and what they were. I mean, it was good grief. Let's cue the intro. My name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Cold podcast. As always, ask anyone enjoying the show, go ahead and shoot it a damn like. It's going to help me get out to as many of us sorry fucks as I possibly can. Subscribe if you want. We're trying to get to 2,700, then 2,800, 3,000, 2 million, the whole deal, right? Audio listeners, 5-star review. If you listen on YouTube, please, if you would be so kind, go into the description of the video, leave an audio review, trying to get that out to more people. But let's just talk about the damn game. I mean, it's a tough sight, right? And I said coming into the week that I did have this sense of impending doom, right? Part of me had a feeling that this game, at minimum, was going to be a little more difficult than it should have been. That was obviously way worse than I expected. Obviously some of the things I didn't like in this game, of course, the Colts run defense, just absolutely no pride whatsoever in this group, right? Grover Stewart, you pay him to be the run stuffer. I mean, you just don't see much of him at all, right? Raekwon Davis was supposed to come in and be another guy. You don't see much of him at all in this game. You have a Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed. Listen, love those two guys. I think Zaire Franklin, to some degree, is the life force of this defense, right? He leads the way. He's just got to be better. Him and EJ Speed have to be better. They're the guys in the trenches. They're the ones out there with the podcast. They're the ones that are front-facing. And when you're out there doing that type of thing, the backlash is going to be worse if you come out and don't play your best, okay? And that's ultimately what we were looking at. Again, the second half cleaned up a little bit, but there's a lot not to like from what we saw from the Colts. The third down call from Shane Steichen, 3rd and 1, you got Jonathan Taylor running all up and down the field, and 3rd and 1, you call a speed option to Trey Sermon? I mean, I don't understand it. And then Matt Gay missing a 50-yarder wide to the left. I mean, that's what he's here for. We have him there for that. He was supposed to be a weapon when we signed him as a kicker. I'm not seeing it. I'm not ready to say that he has to go or anything like that, but he's got to figure it out because, quite frankly, he hasn't really been all that special for the Indianapolis Colts. And I don't have any numbers in front of me, but I don't think the results that he's given us are all that much different than what Chase McLaughlin was giving us back before we signed Matt Gay. So that's something right there we got to figure out. I mean, I could go on all day about the things I don't like. I'm going to try to spin some of the positives here after just an abysmal performance. I mean, there's not much to it, right? I thought Jonathan Taylor looked really, really good in this game. I thought he looked patient. I thought he looked explosive. All of those things were going on. That being said, Anthony Richardson threw one to him, I guess ever so slightly behind, but you're Jonathan Taylor, you're an NFL athlete on, what was it, a 4th down conversion, right? Kind of slipped out of the backfield. All I could think about was that Tyler Goodson play, right, last year when the Texans obviously beat us, made the playoffs, the whole deal. Everyone was saying you should have had JT. Well, there's JT dropping a pass right there. I was supposed to be positive, right? I thought JT looked really, really good in this game with the ball in his hands. Really, really good. I thought in the second half, Dio and Dangbo, Tyquan Lewis, these guys made their presence felt, okay? I thought they looked real good in the second half, particularly out of Dio and Tyquan Lewis, as I just said. Love to see what they were bringing to the table. Nick Cross on the defensive side of the ball, I know he's a work in progress in coverage. He's a very young guy. I quite like his instincts as a tackler. I do. I think he flies around. I think Nick Cross, I don't know if his career ends up being with the Colts all the way through because Lord knows it seems like nothing can go our way right now. I think Nick Cross has a chance to be a really, really good football player. I think a lot of fans turned on him, and I think as the season goes on, people are going to start to really, really like him. I think he's got a shot to be a darn good safety for the Indianapolis Colts, and I just figured I'd bring that up. Anthony Richardson, his performance, I thought the numbers were pretty deceiving. We had drops. We had slips from receivers. I really, really like what I saw out of him overall. I know you're going to look, and you're going to see the 3 interceptions, all that stuff, one of them on the Hail Mary. You had the one that's dropped kind of when you weren't going to win the game anyway on a 95-yard drive. But I love the idea that Anthony Richardson wants to go out there and get it done the right way as a quarterback. We know it's going to be a work in progress. I thought, as I said, the numbers deceiving on the scoreboard for the defense, who played miserably for really the large part of the first half. I thought for AR, the numbers were deceiving just in terms of, to my eye, what I was watching. I thought he looked comfortable. I thought the decision-making was pretty good from him. Overall, I like what I see out of Anthony Richardson. I think he's starting to do those things that, we know what he brings, right? We know the athleticism that he brings, and we know the deep ball that he brings. I think some of the other stuff you're starting to see him settle into. I think we have one at quarterback. I think we have one behind center in Anthony Richardson. I feel really good about it. May not show up on the stat sheets initially, but what we're seeing, I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about it probably in an episode tomorrow or the next day or something like that, very early in the week. I really like what I'm seeing out of Anthony Richardson right there. The DeForest Buckner injury, that didn't look very good. I mean, the ankle is not supposed to bend that way. I don't know if he broke it or what it was, but that was like a cringe-worthy looking sight. Another massive injury for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, what else is new? The team right now, 0-2, and not looking all that great. Let me just say this, though, right? Because we want to sit here and shit on the defense. The offense, again, really did next to nothing in terms of scoring the football, okay? Again, not to let the defense off the hook, but at the same time, if you're an offense, you have to come out there and help them out a little bit. I mean, I'm not sure. Did they convert a third down all day? I mean, did they convert one third down? They might have, in the fourth quarter at a certain point, they might have gotten it done, but going into the fourth, they hadn't converted a third down all day. So, I mean, we could sit there and talk about the defense all we want. At the end of the day, the offense, you got to do a little bit better than that. And, I mean, what else is there to say about that football game? It was an embarrassing performance by the Colts. It was an embarrassing performance by the Colts defense. And quite frankly, I don't know. I mean, I think right now it's Gus Bradley's a guy at this point in time that you have to look at. And it's basically week to week for me. I mean, it's tough because you don't want the instability, right? You go through the whole offseason with his scheme, and then you come in, who you're going to bring in. I mean, that's not a recipe for success to just kind of switch it up like that in the middle of the season. If not for that second half of football, I would have fired Gus Bradley today after the game if I were the Indianapolis Colts. I damn near would have thought about it at halftime. The second half, though, if we can carry that over, particularly schematically, right? Because I think today the players let us down as well on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, missed tackles and stuff like that. It's insane. But Gus Bradley in the second half looked like he woke up from a nap. I mean, all of a sudden, the Colts mixing it up. If we continue to do that, which we won't, but if we do, there may be some hope on the defensive side of the ball because you're really mixing it up at that point. But right now, you have one performance like that on the defensive side of the ball, just one more of those. I think you need Gus Bradley out right then, like gone. And then just deal with whatever turbulence comes on the defensive side of the ball with the new guy that you bring in and try to figure this thing out going into the end of the season and into next year and just rip the Band-Aid off. I mean, it was that bad. It was unbelievable what we saw, particularly because you just knew exactly what they were going to do. I mean, it's wow. Colts 0-2. That's it. My name is Justin. This right here was the Ride the Bench Colts podcast. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, be civil with one another, and fuck.